Welcome, everyone. This is Talent Experience Live, and we missed you. I hope everyone had a happy holiday and is off to a wonderful new year. For those of you who are new to the program, first of all, shame on you. You should be tuning in every single Thursday, but neither here nor that. Neither here nor there. You're here right now, and Talent Experience Live is the show that covers everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, recruitment, talent management, and of course, human resources as a whole. We like to say here, the Talent Experience Live, well, quite frankly, it is the greatest show on the internet. So don't forget to set a calendar reminder, like, and subscribe to all of our social channels so that you never miss an episode. I am your host, Devin Foster, and today I am joined by the wonderful John Harrington Jr., Director of Product Marketing here at Phenom. John, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today, Devin.
Yeah, at this point, you are a recurring guest, right? Is this third, fourth episode for you?
I would say probably third, yeah, but I'll take the fourth if you're going to give me credit for it.
You know what, you can have it, and we like to say here that Phenom at Phenom Talent Experience live episodes are like dog years. So this is your 21st dog year episode of Talent Experience Live, which of course is proudly brought to you by the team here at Phenom. Who's John? Help me if you've heard this before, or fill in the blanks. Whose purpose is to
help a billion people find the right job.
Nailed it. This is your fourth time. You absolutely nailed it. And of course, we do this with our intelligent talent experience platform that helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve into their current role and beyond, recruiters achieve some next level productivity and efficiency. That's what we're going to talk about today. And of course, managers building better teams with data and analytics. All of this is done and powered by super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if you're interested in learning more about any of those topics, including recruiter efficiency, which we're going to cover today, head on over to phenom.com if you are interested. John, I teased it there a little bit. Today, we are talking about recruiter efficiency. It is a new year. Folks in 2023 have new goals. But before we get into that, it is tradition around these parts to always kick things off with an icebreaker. So I want to ask you, John, and also the audience at home, feel free to chime in the comment section. Let us know where you're tuning in from. But it's a new year. Do you have any new goals for this year?
Yeah, I'm trying to lose probably close to 30 pounds in maybe 10 pounds a month clip, which, is already underway. I'm already 10 pounds down. So that's one of my goals to start the year.
Yeah, but then at March, your goal is achieved. You're done. You have to. What's your postmark? I'm kidding. No, that is awesome. You look fantastic, by the way. No need to lose 30 pounds. I don't care what anyone says. But that is an awesome goal. Are you doing anything in particular to help achieve that goal, perhaps more efficiently?
Yeah, I started a ketogenic diet, and I've had no carbs for about a month now, and it's been challenging, but I've gotten into the rhythm that it's more of a routine at this point. And to your point about reaching March and then what, it's all about for me maintenance and keeping it where it is versus yo-yoing back to where I was. And I think that might be where the real challenge starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we think of that from a work perspective, right? So many people do set goals to make a number of calls a certain week, or for a recruiter's sake, set up a number of interviews or even potential hires. And we look at that from a monthly clip, like you are with what you're doing in your weight progress. But once you achieve that goal, recruiters don't stop working, right? If folks at home, they don't stop making calls. Sales folks don't stop making calls. It is equally as important to stay as efficient and keep those goals top of mind, so that when 2024 rolls around, John, you could have the goal to become chiseled and enter a bodybuilding competition. I think you have it in you. But anyway, that is exciting stuff. And I kind of teased it there a little bit, but when we look at 2022, the year was filled with, it was kind of tumultuous, right? We had kind of the return of COVID a little bit, and then COVID went away, then it's back again. We had economic uncertainty, a number of things. And then as we prepare for 2023, the one commonality every year is that I think your goals are always going to be exceed what you did previously. So even if you didn't meet some of those goals last year, your company, slowed down hiring or whatever it may be. When you look at 2023, everything's positive. The grass is always greener on the other side when we're looking at from a 10,000 foot view. So this year, recruiters are going to kick off the year grinding even harder and trying to do everything. But when we think of the hiring process and trying to improve upon last year's maybe inefficiencies, John, I want to ask you a question. When it comes to the interview process and hiring candidates, steps can't really be skipped, can they, to achieve more, to achieve your goals faster, right? A lot like a diet. You can't really skip steps to achieve a diet. What do those steps look like from a recruiter's perspective, and how can they potentially enhance them just at a quick glance? And we'll dive into each way a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. I think as we dissect this and as we get into some examples, I think it's important to kind of look at different stages of the hiring process that take place. And for this particular series that we're kicking off this month, that's really geared towards recruiter efficiency, we're going to focus most of our effort on one of the middle stages. So it's not necessarily attraction of candidates to your career site or engagement or conversion. It's really at the point where you're starting the screening and the scheduling process, when you've got some legitimate contenders that you're considering and you're evaluating them. And I think what we're trying to do is get a little bit more focused in our double clicking into that phase of the hiring cycle, so we can give some real prescriptive guidance and some examples of what to do to go from good to great, and how to really get more of a process in place that's scalable, that's repeatable, that really brings back a lot of value to teams that don't have enough time, that don't have enough resources, that have high aspirations, that, like you said, goals are only getting bigger, and know that the competition's only getting better. So what do you do about it? And today, when we look at that phase where you have candidates you're considering for roles, you have applicants that have submitted applications, you have a large volume of resumes to look through, a lot of data, a lot of comparisons, and a lot of cross-referencing between the job description and what someone submitted. It's an onerous process. It's incredibly time-consuming, and it doesn't really pull from the strategic inputs that a recruiter can really offer up when day in and day out they're going through documentation and paperwork, versus really getting to know the candidates and really getting to understand who the best fit would be for the role that they're considering them for, how to get that information to a hiring manager or an interview team faster. Right now, it's very manual, and there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of going between the lines to figure out who would be the right fit. And it's tiring, and it doesn't really get the most juice out of the squeeze. And so what we're going to really focus on are some approaches where the power of video, for example, can really make that screening process more enjoyable, more impactful, create better experiences for the candidates that are submitting, who they are, what they're all about, why they're qualified for the role, and helping recruiters in turn get a better sense for whether they're the right fit. And really, again, aligning with our purpose to help others find the right job, right? We're putting the power in their hands to do so with newer, more advanced technologies, right? So that's one thing I think we'll spend some time on today, discussing. Another part of the hiring cycle where I think there's room for improvement, and in a very similar vein, is the scheduling process. Today, better than anyone how busy it can be. Especially everyone tuning in, you're just getting back likely from some time off between the holidays, and now your calendar's hitting you hard. You got a lot of meetings, you got a lot of things to get back up to speed on, and they move around because you've got to find a way to prioritize a lot of it. And people have commitments, they're double booked, triple booked, and this happens very frequently. But by the same token, you can go on LinkedIn and you can read about the experience the candidates are having when they know they're being considered for a role and how long it can take. I've been waiting this long, or I've had to do this many interviews, or I don't know what the next step looks like for me. And, it's all about making sure that you can make that process a lot more smooth, a lot more seamless, and set expectations and really follow through on them. And that's where automation comes into play. You've got an automated process for interview scheduling, and all of a sudden that cumbersome, time-consuming manual effort that recruiters undertake to find the right time to engage with candidates when they're evaluating them for candidacy for the role they're hiring for, make it go so much faster, and also acknowledging that those same candidates are looking for roles at other companies. And if you can get that interview booked faster, you can come to decisions faster and get the news in front of them, at a much faster clip and reduce your time to hire. So again, I mentioned video and the power it can play in the screening process. It's very similar to the role that automation can play during interview scheduling.
That makes total sense. And the one thing that I love that you mentioned there was it's about the middle stages, right? The middle of a process. And when we talk about new goals, whether it be to run like my goal is in the new year, or to lose a couple pounds on the scale, like your goal is throughout this year, it's not about day one when you start. It's not about day 30, 40, 60 when you finish. It's about that middle process. And when we think about that from a recruiter's perspective, we have to take into consideration candidates, right? And one thing that we constantly talk about here at Phenom, it's even a nice little product placement, is candidate experience, right? And the experience goes beyond just the application process. Something we're very good at here at Phenom is the application process and streamlining that. But where I see the most pushback and the most negativity on social media isn't necessarily on the application process always. It's about not hearing back, right? And when you think of someone who is ready to change jobs, where they have taken the time to put together their resume, where they've filled out some of these applications, some may be longer than others. They want to hear back as soon as possible, right? They see an open role. They think this must be a top priority. Hopefully a recruiter reaches back to me. And when you think of it from a recruiter perspective, you open up a role like in social media or something like that, a very trendy job, where folks are going to literally flood with applications. I've seen this stuff on LinkedIn all the time, where remote jobs are getting thousands and thousands of applications. When you think of that from a recruiter's perspective, how are they supposed to sift through a stack of resumes, figuratively speaking, this high and get back to folks in a timely manner? And from a candidate's perspective, they don't have the attention span to wait. Number one, they've already decided they want that next job. And number two, they just don't have the attention span. Thanks a lot, TikTok. People are scrolling through videos super fast, right? You've seen it on commercials and everything in between. Our attention spans just aren't what they used to be. So one thing that you mentioned there, speaking of TikTok and attention spans, is video. And how can video play a role, perhaps aside from video interviewing, where you hop on a Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it may be to interview a candidate? How can that play a role in recruiters being more efficient to achieve their goals in 2023?
Yeah, so it's important to think about the process that candidates are undertaking without the power of video, right? They're may be asked to submit a cover letter. They may be sent a prompt to submit a response to, and they don't know how long it needs to be. It's kind of ambiguous, and they may overthink it. They may have the inability to convey their sentiment around what they're sharing, and you're putting them in a position where they send it out into the abyss, and they don't know what happens with it. And one thing that video does, and you mentioned some examples of social media, it gives you the ability to really let your personality shine and who you are, what you mean, how you feel, emotionally speaking. That gets conveyed without really a whole lot of time needing to go by. You can quickly get a sense for who you're considering and evaluating when, from a recruiter's perspective, you're using the power of video. From a candidate perspective, you save time as well. You don't have to sit there and scratch your head and say, how do I put that into words? You just say it, right? And it makes it that much more natural, and it allows people to really put their self out in the open, and show what they're all about, without taxing them from a time perspective, and doing something that they gravitate to in their own personal life. And of course, I don't want to make a statement as if everyone has the exact same preferences. Some people may prefer to do the old fashioned way and submit responses without video, but just giving them the option and making that part of the process, I think is a huge boost to getting more responses. And from an evaluation standpoint, it's not the same thing one after the other, very binary, going through paper after paper, form after form, looking very similar to the last one you just saw. you're really seeing a truly different person, and you're able to connect with them differently. So I think that that's one of the powerful aspects of it.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned there that it isn't for everyone, right? But I want to spin that around a little bit and say it could be a differentiator for organizations. It's something that is unique to you that you see on the page where you offer that option for video. And I like that you mentioned cover letters and assessments and things like that. I can tell you from my own personal interview experience, hopefully none of my previous employers get upset about this, but when I put together an assessment or a cover letter or even a thank you note after an interviewer, John, I had 4 or 5 people look at it to make sure I'm terrible at writing. I am not a strong writer, but to make sure I didn't have any grammatical issues, to make sure that I was conveying my thoughts accurately, that I wasn't repeating myself too much. And at that point, by the time I submitted in, it's not me, right? But if I was to hop on a video and send a thank you note via video or answer an assessment via video or create my video cover letter. I know we did an episode on TXL at this point, I think 2 years ago, about how video was going to kill the cover letter. We're here. The time is now where everyone has their phones, they're recording themselves, they're taking selfies. Not everyone is comfortable doing that in a job setting. That's okay. Those other options are still there. But if you give the opportunity for someone to differentiate themselves, it's great. And from a recruiter's perspective, you have to be able to filter through or at least scroll through a ton more candidates at a faster clip. Am I out on a limb there, John? Is that accurate? Do you think you can essentially watch a movie faster than you can read a book?
Well, I think your attention span, once you're undertaking a process of evaluating text and what someone submitted, maybe the first one you look at, you give it a lot of your time, and then the second one you look at right next to it. Now you have to think about the last one you reviewed and how does that compare to the first one you reviewed, right? And it starts to kind of blur. And I think with a video, it's a set number of minutes that you're watching it because you submitted the same questions to every candidate. So it's only going to take so much time per review. And I think each of them have the opportunity to stand out from the other. They don't feel so similar because you're not spending time agonizing over every word and every sentence and every paragraph. It's just a different way to interpret what someone has to say or what they have to represent about themselves. I think another really powerful aspect of it is when you intertwine it into a platform that is intended to empower talent stakeholders that are evaluating candidates, recruiters, interview stakeholders, hiring managers. You're able to see how those got completed, and you're able to prioritize which ones are available for review. You're able to see what your colleagues had to say about them. You're able to compare notes and share your insights and inputs, and you're able to arrive at the decision about who to schedule that interview with faster and get on the same page without having to bring everyone together on a call. You're able to do it all from a platform, and it makes it that much more easy to communicate, collaborate, and arrive at a decision.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And I think the the negative folks may come back and say, well, all you're doing is introducing bias into, the interview process. And to that, where you just said you're offering the same questions to everyone, you're giving them an opportunity to differentiate, and you're also not requiring them to do it, but it could provide a competitive advantage, right? I think of kind of our next topic that we're going to get into, which is scheduling. Let's say schedules just don't align because the hiring manager is going on potentially paternity leave or something along those lines, but they still want to be involved in the process. A video is a way to kind of do that, to introduce them to someone that may be hired on their team while they're out. So just food for thought there. But John, jumping to our next aspect of it, which you mentioned, calendars. And I can tell you, I hate looking at my calendar right now and seeing meetings all over the place. It happens because everyone's catching up after break, but it's tough to find time that works for everyone, especially if you have multiple decision makers, required on a call for an interview or even to digest an interview. So when it comes to the scheduling process, how can automation and artificial intelligence really enhance that to streamline things for the end user and for the person we're doing all this for, the recruiter, and then the person who benefits the most from it, the candidate?
Yeah, I think one of the keys is looking at where you want to be before you start the process. Everyone wants, when you have an open rec and you have a team that's aligned to finding the right person, you want to find that person, and you got to figure out what you need to do to get there. Who needs to be involved? Who has the internal know how and expertise to size up the fit? Who needs to be part of that interview committee? What format do you want to follow when you're thinking about how you're going to organize those stakeholders and how they come together? Do you want to have one-to-one interviews? Do you want to have panel interviews? Do you want to have multiple stakeholders all in the same room that make it possible to compare questions, see how they react to each other's responses, and come to a huddle at the end of the process and come to a decision, right? You've got to work backwards from the process and figure out how you want to let it play out smoothly to set expectations up front for the candidate so there isn't that ambiguity related to where am I in the process? How much longer do I have to wait? Who do I need to speak to? How long is it going to take to get that answer? Did I get the job or not? And if you get all that up front, the automation takes care of most of the how does that all come together for you. Where traditionally a recruiter might feel and really truly be a bottleneck to connecting all the little dots that need to be connected to make sure the candidate gets engaged, to figure out when they're available, to booking the time, to making sure they RSVP, to making sure that it worked for everyone else that needs to be participating, to a wrench gets thrown in the plan and now it has to be rescheduled. And then they have to go connect more dots to figure out when the next best time is, right? If even me just describing it takes a long time, the action that needs to be undertaken to actually do it is a whole nother story. So when you think about the power that automation can play, when you have all that pre-configured before you start the outreach, and the AI and the automation know who to engage, how to engage them, at what clip, it makes it so much faster. And then the expectations are set up front. Candidates have a better experience. They know who they're talking to and when. It's at a convenient time for them. And they're actually making decisions faster about who they're going to move forward with, the interview team and the hiring team. And the candidate feels like they knew all along what the process was going to look like and how it was going to be. And we, as a collective, know, hey, it was done as efficiently as possible. So you're getting acceptances faster. You're getting people to show up. The meetings are taking place and the decisions are being made before offers are extended by competition that's going after the exact same talent. It's just a night and day kind of difference.
No, it makes me think of, kind of the this evolution in HR, right? We have, and how it kind of mimics society to an extent, right? We've had this technological boom where applicant tracking systems were created, applications were built online, which mimics kind of the .com era, in the early 2000s and things like that, where everyone needed a virtual website to purchase things or to buy products. And now we're entering this evolution. It's something that used to be in our point of view here at Phenom, of automation, right? And John, what you just described, immediately what popped into my head is a vacation, right? I know I'm traveling to X, Y, and Z city. I'm going to meet up with a couple friends there, and they have a couple food allergies, right? They're unable to eat seafood. They have a shellfish allergy. So I'm going to look up restaurants. Now, I know they can't do it Tuesday night, right? They are only available after 7 p.m. because that's when the babysitter is available, or whatever it may be. And there's all of these external factors just to have dinner, right? And what companies like Open Table do and things like that is they take all of these reservations and they say, here's the times that are available here, in this neighborhood with this specific types of food for this many people. And all of a sudden you have something, a dinner reservation, as opposed to back when I was growing up, where we used to have to call restaurants and say, do you have any time available? Do you have, a time for 4, inside or outside? All of these questions. When we apply that same ideology to the application and hiring process, it's exactly what you just described. It's 1,000 different calendars with different stages in the process where people need to meet beforehand. And it's going to avoid the one thing that I can guarantee everyone hates. It is when people just throw time on your calendar and you already have a meeting or you have a doctor's appointment, and then you have to reschedule and reschedule again. And recruiters are reaching back out to their candidates and everything in between. And it just creates a bad experience. So by serving up all of those additional X factors, including rescheduling, because life happens from time to time, you're able to give them the best experience. Am I off base with that kind of analogy, John? Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the scheduling nightmare and how it can essentially be a dream for recruiters and hiring managers?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and I'll play on you're alluding to it as a dream. When recruiters are dreaming, it's doing all the work for you. So if someone declines it while you're asleep, it actually finds the right time to get everyone together without your involvement required. There's no, again, I brought up bottleneck earlier. There's no delay in the process or associated wait. Everyone spends so much time in their life waiting for things. And this is one of the beautiful aspects of addressing that pain point in the context of the hiring process, where someone knows they're being considered. They want to know where they stand. They want to know who they're going to speak with because they can get prepared, and they want to get that answer faster. And those little wrenches that get thrown don't really need to be addressed by a member of the team, who can then pour more energy as a consequence into the evaluation process, the considering who they're speaking to, putting more time into planning for that interview, and making sure the team has the right idea for how they're going to use that time effectively. So it's really not only saving time, getting in front of people faster, alleviating the pain that is associated with cancellations or conflicts, and allowing teams to think more about what are they going to use the time they do have to accomplish, and get to that decision faster.
John, I love that you took my dream analogy and really ran with it, because immediately it popped into my mind when I was a recruiter in a past life and I had an interview scheduled at 8 a.m. the next day, and I forgot to send a follow-up to the candidate and say, hey, don't forget you have an interview tomorrow. Don't chew gum. Don't bring a bottle of water in, kind of run through. If you can automate that, and they get an email the day before, the night before, that says, hey, you're meeting with, Sally, John, and Tom tomorrow. Be sure to, bring your tools. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. It gives recruiters the time to become talent advisors, which is what we speak about, where if they have questions on John's, specific background, like, hey, I saw John worked for IBM. Is there any, sort of insight there, or whatever it may be? It gives them that time to prepare without a recruiter having to call them up, 15 minutes before and saying, hey, here's the lay of the land, or call them the night before and say, hey, something changed last second. It's all done for them, and it allows them to kind of de-stress a little bit, maybe before they go to bed, where they're not worried about what's going to happen the next day, because automation is handling it. Now, John, we talked about this from a recruiter perspective. Recruiter efficiency was really the topic, but I have to ask you, because this is on LinkedIn, because this is on YouTube, and not just recruiters watch the show. I pulled the analytics last year. There's actually a tremendous other amount of folks that do tune into Talent Experience Live. How does this affect the business as a whole? How does this affect someone who may not be involved directly with the hiring process, but Tom chimes in and says, no one ever told him not to chew gum. Tom, I'm going to tell you right now, don't chew gum. And if you're doing a phone interview, this is a free tip for any candidates that may be watching: smile. People can hear smiles through the phone, but don't chew gum. Please don't chew gum. So back to where I was before I was so rudely interrupted by Tom. I'm kidding. We love Tom. Tom's a recurring guest on the show and also host. I still have to get him his jacket. John, how does this help the business as a whole, not just recruiters?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that I think everyone, whether you're a recruiter or else, you could be a talent management stakeholder, you could be a talent ops resource, you might be an HRIS. There's actually in this series we're undertaking this month going to be some examples that we're unfolding, and double clicking truly on these video automation AI examples that we touched on today, to get underneath the surface and see how, when you do use this, what kind of transformative impact does it have on your business? How many hours are you saving? How much time are you saving? What does it do from a budget perspective? How are we seeing that manifest in the data, our customer data, study data that we have? So be ready and dialed in as we kind of uncover that in the weeks ahead. For today, I would say one thing to look at in the context of recruiter efficiency and the holistic side across the business. We did undertake a total economic impact study with Forrester. It was published in November 2022. And one of the beauties of that study is it's based upon customer feedback and how people who've adopted our approaches with video, with AI, with automation, how they're benefiting from its use and application in the context of their business, and how that's bringing back tremendous impact for them. There were four critical areas that were uncovered as far as benefits are concerned. One of which was reducing the time and cost to hire, which folds directly into what we were talking about related to video, the power that can be leveraged when screening processes are supercharged with the power of video, and automation. How does that reduce the amount of steps and manual effort that needs to be undertaken to get the right people in the room early and often? It really did reveal tremendous impact as far as that is concerned. Recruiter productivity and efficiency was another big area where business benefits were uncovered. I know that's not necessarily applicable to everyone in the business, but when your recruiters are working better and more efficiently, it brings about a tremendous impact in the effect of that, right? Who you're bringing on board, who you're inserting into these powerful roles that are going to bring back business impact. So it has a very strong cause and effect relationship and association there. Another really powerful aspect of the study was internal mobility. So sometimes you think you fall on yesterday's approaches of just thinking the person that you need for the job might not be in the building. They're somewhere else. But what we found when we evaluated and interviewed many of our customers that have adopted and used Phenom is that the power of internal mobility when using a talent marketplace can help you uncover the right fit within the organization for the roles that you're hiring for. They're not always elsewhere, right? You don't have to look too far, in other words. And a lot of organizations, when adopting a AI-powered platform such as Phenom, can benefit from the use of that to complement their external approach and infuse an internal approach as well. Another was reducing the cost and spend that's normally associated with sourcing and attracting talent by having personalization, engaging experiences, dynamic updates on the career site. You're improving your conversion rate. You're not having to ultra spend to post every job on job boards to get people to come to your site. You instead turn your focus to the people that are already on your doorstep and giving them an incredible experience to make the process better and reduce your costs. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that study, it's definitely chock full of examples. Those are the ones that I would say stick out, to answer your question, Devin. And it's a great point to bring up.
And I know there are a tremendous amount of quantitative notes that are in there where it comes down to dollars and cents, right? And as we, kind of just wrapped up budget season, wouldn't it be great to look at some products that are actually going to save you money and not be, just said right on a sales call or whatever? There's actually some research done behind it. John, one thing that I want to stress, I know this season is all around recruiter efficiency, but you mentioned talent marketplaces and, kind of upskilling and things like that. It's going to pain me to say this, but it was the first thing that jumped out when you said you can find talent within your own walls. As a New York Jets fan, I was tortured by Tom Brady for 20 years of my life. And everyone knows the story. He was a 6th round pick and now is a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Neither here nor there. The point is there is talent within your building that you may not know about. And when you talked about some of these efficiencies that can impact your entire business, I think of how the candidate experience can impact the employee experience, where if you make it easy for someone to apply, for someone to move through the process to get hired in your organization, they are only going to expect that once they are a part of your organization. And giving them the tools and, quite frankly, the ability to grow within your organization the same way that they were able to get a job within your organization is only going to help you out. So that's within the TEI report as well. I promise there are no mentions of Tom Brady or the New England Patriots in that. I made sure of it. But John, before we hop off, I know we are going to double click into a number of these things over the course of the next month in this recruiter efficiency season. We're going to talk video assessments. We're going to talk AI scheduling. We're going to get product tours. We're going to speak with folks who are using it. We're going to see it in real time. I want to ask you, are there any final thoughts that you have before we sign off today?
No, I would just say go into the next few episodes with an open mind as you look at what you're currently doing and comparing it to what we're seeing true customer outcomes derive from when taking different and newer approaches. And really, rely on us as helpers to get you from where you need to be. If there's things that stick out to you that you want to learn more about, it doesn't have to sit within these episodes. We have plenty of resources, experts, and resources that can be drawn upon to help you get an approach in place that works for you. So if you're listening in and you're curious about how you can evaluate your approach, think through the steps that would need to be taken to get to a better outcome. Don't look much further than Devin and I, and just insert yourself into the chat. Let us know what your reactions are to what we're covering, because we're here to help you get to a better tomorrow. Reducing your cost and time to hire, improving your efficiency across your team, leveraging the power of the AI and the automation that's available in the tool sets that you're using to do your job, and really not being afraid of taking that leap of faith. A lot of the complication around it really might just be, I don't know what I don't know. And as we kind of get into those examples that you mentioned and showing what it looks like and how it works, I would just say going into it with an open mind and, really taking us up on the offer to help wherever we can. Because at the end of the day, it's hard to actually go follow through on a goal that you're setting. I think I can speak to that from experience on what we started the episode with. And, having a little bit of help and surrounding support goes a long way. So just, I would just, for everyone listening in, take us up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're ever unable to catch an episode, you can always find the blog recaps on phenom.com. If you follow us on our socials, we always clip up some nice little snippets from episodes where perhaps when you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever your social media preference may be, perhaps it's Twitter, you can see some of these clips that we're talking about where, myself, John, the entire Phenom team, our customers are trying to help recruiters, talent marketers, everyone really involved in the hiring and employee process, HRIS in between. We're trying to help. We're trying to leverage some of the lessons that we've learned and the value that we've provided organizations. And hopefully, even if you're not a Phenom customer, you can use some of those tips and tricks into helping you have a successful 2023 as we approach this kick off this new year with new goals. John, I want to thank you so much for joining today. I know you had a bit of a hectic morning, so I appreciate you taking the time. With that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic Thursday and enjoys their weekend. Thank you again, John. Really appreciate it.
Devin, thanks for having me on. I look forward to episode 5, my next in line. But
yeah,
for now, go ahead.
I got to get you a jacket at that point. That is my responsibility. And I have to get Tom one as well. So look out, Amazon.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. We'll see you soon. Bye.